الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى آل بيتك المظلومين صلى الله عليك يا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة يا غريب ويا مظلوم كربلاء ما خاب من تمسك بكم وأمن من لجأ إليكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أعوذ بالله من السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين زينة الخلائق أجمعين وحبيب إله العالمين المصطفى الأمجد والرسول المسدد أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. Last night we spoke about the calamity of Thursday, which is known as Al-Raziyatu Yawm al-Khamis, the calamity of Thursday. Just as a recap, we know that Rasulullah passed away on the 28th of Safar in the 11th year after Hijrah. And this event took place on a Thursday known as Khamis. Yawm al-Khamis wa ma Yawm al-Khamis. And Yawm al-Khamis and what is known about the day of Thursday. We started by talking about how the story is narrated by Ibn Abbas, the cousin of the Prophet. And he starts by saying, Al-Raziyatu Yawm al-Khamis wa ma hala bayna kitabihi wa bayna Rasulillah. And what happened on the day of Thursday and what stopped the Prophet from writing his will. Just a quick recap. The Prophet was on his deathbed. The companions were around him. The Prophet asked for pen and paper. He said, if I write this paper, لَن تَضِلُّوا بَعْدَهُ أَبَدًا, and you will never ever go astray. Umar bin Khattab responds by saying, إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ غَلَبَهُ الْوَجْعِ, that this man has gone crazy. This man has gone mad, referring to Rasulullah. And we spoke about how these words are of direct insult to the Prophet ﷺ. This is somebody of وَمَا يَنْتُقُ عَنِ الْهَوَىٰ إِنْ هُوَ إِلَّا وَحْيٌ يُوحَىٰ. He does not speak of his own desires. He does not speak of what he wants. Rather, he speaks of revelation. Then Umar bin Khattab responded by saying, حَسْبُنَا كِتَابُ اللَّهِ. He said, we have the book of Allah, and the book of Allah is sufficient for us. We don't need this will that you are about to write, or that you want to be written. After he said this, حَسْبُنَا كِتَابُ اللَّهِ, the people around the Prophet, they started to raise their voices. They started to shout. They started to quarrel amongst each other. As I said last night, the group of the companions, they split into two. The first group, they said, yes, allow the Prophet to write. Allow him to write his final will. And another group, they said no, they agreed with this, Umar bin Khattab, and they said, yes, Hasbuna Kitabullah is enough for us. Now just a side point on the death of Rasulullah. It's very interesting how our Sunni brothers, the Ahlul Sunnah, you do not see them mourning the death of Rasulullah. You only see them celebrating the birth of Rasulullah. They have their gatherings, the Mawlid that they do. On the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, we believe the Prophet was born on the 17th, they believe he was born on the 12th. However, similarly, our Sunni brothers, they also believe the Prophet died on the same day. He died on the day of his birth. He was born on the same day and he died on the same day, on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal. So you don't see them remembering the Prophet's death. You only see them, they read Qasida and they go in Pakistan, they do these julus and they go into the julus and they say, you Shia this and Shia lanat. They walk around saying this on the 12th of Rabi al-Awwal, when the Prophet was born. But you rarely see them speak about his death. Why is it that you don't see them speaking about his death? Because this was a crucial moment in Islamic history, where it exposes the people like Abu Bakr, like Umar bin Khattab, like these people around Rasulullah, it exposes them. So this Umar bin Khattab, he said, Hasbuna kitabullah. Then they started to shout, they started to raise their voices, and the Prophet said, Qumu anni. And we mentioned last night that the Prophet did not say, please can you leave my house. He didn't ask them nicely. If you say, leave my house, please can you leave my house? It's different. But when you say, Qumu anni, the best way I could put it into English is, get out of here. Leave my sight. Qumu anni. So this was a direct order from the Prophet. He ordered them around him to leave. Why is it that he ordered the companion to leave? Why didn't he say, yes, my beloved companions, you will hold on to the Kitab of Allah, you will hold on to the Book of Allah, you will receive guidance from the Book of Allah? He doesn't say this. He said, just get out, leave from here, leave from my sight. I don't want to be anywhere near you. So this shows that the Rasulullah was in pain, he was in grief, that they have rejected me from writing my will. They have stopped me from writing my will. And we also mentioned last night that before Abu Bakr passed away, when he was on his deathbed, he ordered the third Khalifa, Uthman ibn Affan, to write down his will. Now we as the Shia, we interject and we say, why is it that he can write his will and not the Prophet? Why is the Prophet stopped from writing his will, but Abu Bakr, the first Khalifa, he's not stopped? They allow him to write. Also, Umar bin Khattab was present. He did not say, Hasbuna kitab Allah. He did not say, Inna al-rajula ghalabahu al-waja'. He did not say that this man, he's gone crazy and the pain has overtaken him. He did not say this. He just stood there and he said, yes, allow Abu Bakr to write. We will not interject. But when the Prophet is asking for pen and paper, he is stopped and he is interjected. Now just more of a deeper translation on Inna al-rajula la yahjur. There are two things which in the stories, it's narrated that he either said Inna al-rajula la yahjur, that indeed this man is now delirious, he's gone mad. A more deeper way of we can translate this is that liyahjur means nonsense. Liyahjur in English means nonsense. In Urdu will be bakwas. The Prophet is speaking bakwas. This is what this Umar bin Khattab said. Now we respond as the Shia, as our scholars have responded in their books. They said if the Prophet was speaking nonsense, when we hear nonsense, we tend to not reply. We ignore nonsense. If somebody is talking rubbish, we ignore them. Let them say their piece. It goes in one ear and out of the other. Ignore what they have to say. But this Umar bin Khattab, he responded. If he believed that the Prophet was talking nonsense, he should have stayed quiet. He should not have said anything. Rather, he responded. And he said, Hasbuna kitab Allah. Meaning that Umar bin Khattab, he was very aware, he was well aware what the Prophet wanted to write. He knew what the Prophet wanted to write. He knew that the Prophet wanted to write that after me, my successor is Ali ibn Abi Talib. Hold on to him. Do not leave him. Do not disobey him. Umar bin Khattab knew the Prophet wanted to write these words. So he interjected and said, Hasbuna Kitabullah. So this is the way that we respond to this Hasbuna Kitabullah. Then the people left the Prophet, they left his house. And this happened on the Thursday. This incident happened on Thursday. And the Prophet passed away on the Monday. On the 28th of Safar, 11th year after Hijrah, on a Monday, the Prophet passed away. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So he passed away on the Monday. This incident happened when? On the Thursday, and he passed away on the Monday. Now the people around Rasulullah, they were very aware. They 100% knew that the Prophet was about to pass away. These were the last few days of the Prophet. And on that same Monday, it is said, narrated by Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu wa sallamu alayhi, that he was with the Prophet and his pain had intensified. The Prophet was in more pain. In our books of tradition, in our books of narration, it is said that before a Rasul or a Nabi, before an Imam, before a awliya of Allah, the God-fearing people, before they pass away, they are given a choice. They are given two choices. The angel of death comes to them and they say to them, we either take your soul now or you stay in the dunya. You have two choices and you pick from one of them. You either choose that you stay in this dunya with these people, or you ascend to the heavens and you are in the highest ranks of positions in Jannah. So these two choices are given to the Rasul, to the Nabi, to the Imams. However, we as fallible human beings, we are not given this option. Our time of death is our time of death. We cannot escape this time. We cannot avoid death in any circumstance. However, the Prophet is given these two options. So most likely the Prophet was given this option on a Monday. He was given this option and the Prophet decided, no, I would like to go and meet with my Lord. So on the day the Prophet passed away, this day on Thursday, on Monday, it really shows again the character of this Umar bin Khattab. Who was he like? What was going on in his mind? What kind of person was he? The day the Prophet passed away, in the house, in the Hujra of Rasulullah, in his room, because in the Masjid al-Nabawi, when you go to Medina, you see that the Masjid al-Nabawi is now this grand masjid with these different doorways. You have Bab Ali ibn Abi Talib, Bab al-Hilal, and you have Bab Bilal al-Habashi, different entrances to the Prophet's masjid. However, in the time of the Prophet, the Masjid al-Nabawi was very small. You could say that it was about the size of this hall. This was the size of the original Masjid al-Nabawi. And in the middle would be the courtyard of the Messenger. There would be his mimbar, there would be his mihrab, and there would be the piece of Jannah, the Rawdatul Jannah, which is placed between his grave and the mimbar. And in the original Masjid al-Nabawi, by these walls that we have in this hall, by these walls, there were different rooms. There were different houses, you could say. Different houses. There was the house of Rasulullah, there was the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib, the house of this companion, all different houses surrounding the courtyard of Rasulullah. Now when the Prophet passed away, he passed away in his hujra, he passed away in his room. Once he passed away, the Banu Hashim, the family of Rasulullah, especially Amir al-Mu'mineen, Sayyid Fatima al-Zahra, Imam Hassan and Hussain, they started to cry because their grandfather has just passed away. Amir al-Mu'mineen's cousin has passed away, Sayyid Fatima al-Zahra's father has passed away, and Imam Hassan and Hussein's And Umar bin Khattab, he then asked, why are they crying? This was the question in his mind. Why are they crying? Any sane person, when somebody's family member passes away, you don't ask them, why are you crying? This is not something reasonable to ask. They're crying because their family members have passed away. So he says, why are they crying? Umar bin Khattab was informed, and he said, the Prophet has now passed away. Now this is inside the mind of this Umar bin Khattab. What is it that he began to do? He heard this news that the Prophet had passed away. He stands in the middle of the masjid, in the courtyard of the messenger. He stands in the middle, he grabs his sword, and he starts waving it about. He starts causing a scene. And he starts shouting and screaming. And what is it that he said, specifically? He grabbed his sword, started waving it about, causing a scene, and he said, anybody who says that the Messenger of Allah has passed away, I will kill them. Anybody who says, who claims that the Prophet has passed away, I will kill them. The people could not believe this because they knew very well that the Prophet in the event of Ghadir had said, I will die within a few days, I will leave you in a few weeks, in a few months I will leave you. The Prophet in his house, he said, I will leave you on the day of Thursday. He said, I will leave you. So everybody knew, yes, the Prophet is about to pass away. But this Umar bin Khattab, he causes a scene in the masjid, waves his sword around, and he said, no, I do not believe that the Prophet has passed away. The Prophet is not dead. Instead, the Prophet, he has gone away. Just as Musa alayhi salam, when Musa went to the mountain for 40 days, the same way Musa went to the mountain, the Prophet has also gone away and he will come back. He will come back from his trip or wherever he's gone, according to him. He has gone to his trip and he will come back. I refuse to believe the Prophet has passed away. And he said, anybody who believes the Prophet has passed away, I will cut their hands off, I will cut their feet off, and I will kill them. Now the people around him, they began to think that this Umar bin Khattab has gone mad, he's gone crazy. Why exactly he said this? There was a reason why he started to cause a scene. Because the first Khalifa, Abu Bakr, he did not live in Medina. He lived outside of Medina in a village called Sun. Sun was a village outside of Medina, just outside of Medina. So once Abu Bakr heard this news, he found out the Prophet has passed away, he started to make his way to Medina. Now this Abu Bakr and this Umar bin Khattab, these two are crucial figures within the Islamic history. Within what happens after the death of the Prophet, within what happens in the leadership, and the leadership which is went from one hand to the next hand to the next hand, they play a pivotal role. Are we aware of these names? Abu Bakr and Umar? We know these names. These were vital characters. Now Abu Bakr is making his way to Medina. Now this Umar bin Khattab, he's still causing a scene. He's waving his sword around, saying, anybody who claims Rasulullah has passed away, I will kill them. Now we ask this to, now the people who revere Umar bin Khattab, our Sunni brothers, we ask them this. That in the Battle of Uhud, in the second battle of Islam, when the announcement was made by the shaitan, the Satan, he had made an announcement that Muhammadun mat. Muhammad is dead. So we ask the Sunni brothers, when did this idea came into the mind of Umar bin Khattab? When did this idea come into his head that the Prophet does not die? Because in the Battle of Uhud, when the false news was made that Rasulullah is dead, why did you put your sword down and run to the mountains? Why did you run away to the mountains? If you believe the Prophet cannot die, why did you run away? Although in the Battle of Uhud this was fake news, this was false. The Prophet was not dead. Amir al-Mu'mineen was with him on the mountain. Amir al-Mu'mineen was protecting the Prophet from the ambush. But this Umar ibn Khattab, he decided to run away. So this idea that came into his mind, the reason why he came with this idea is so he could buy time. He could buy time so Abu Bakr can come into Medina and take over. It's just a scene just so he can wait. So, okay, Abu Bakr is not here now. So let me quickly make a scene, let me get everybody riled up and wait for him to come. So if this idea was true in his mind, that the Prophet does not die, then in the Battle of Uhud, why did you run away? This is the question we ask the Sunni brothers, and this is all recorded in history. I'm not saying any of this just to please you. The responsibility is on my shoulders. If somebody would say, how dare you say this about our Hazrat Umar? That he ran away and he did this and he did that. It's all written in the history, it's all documented. So he did this action to buy time. So he could wait for Abu Bakr to come from his village in Sunh, and he can come to Medina and he can take over. Now Abu Bakr has now entered Medina. He goes to the Hujr of Rasulullah. He lifts the cloak off the face of Rasulullah, and he sees that indeed the Prophet has passed away. The Prophet is not with us anymore. So he comes back into the courtyard and he sits on the mimbar of Rasulullah. And he gives a lengthy sermon, a lengthy khutbah. And he starts by saying, it's very interesting in what he says. He says, Man kana ya'budu Muhammadan. Whoever worshipped Rasulullah. Pay attention to the word. Whoever worshipped Rasulullah, faqad mat. Indeed, he has now passed away. The question that we ask is that, has anybody in history ever worshipped Rasulullah? There is no faction, there is no group within Islam who worships Rasulullah. Neither do the Sunnis, neither do the Shias. As Shias, we do not worship Rasulullah. Nobody worships Rasulullah. So why is he that has said, Man kana ya'budu? And he didn't say, Man kana ya'mulu. He did not say, and those who follow. No, he said those who worship. Our scholars have interpreted this, and they say that what Abu Bakr meant by ya'budu, he meant by love. Anybody who loves Rasulullah, faqad mat. Whoever loves Rasulullah, he has now passed away. Indeed, Allah is alive, and Allah will live for eternity. This is his introduction to the khutbah in the speech of Abu Bakr. And our scholars say that when Abu Bakr said, Man kana ya'budu, he meant love. And there is no one in the history of Islam, in the history of the religion, that loved Rasulullah more than the Ahlul Bayt. More than Ali ibn Abi Talib, more than Sayyidah Fatimah al-Zahra, more than Hassan and Hussain. Nobody loves Rasulullah more than these individuals. So our scholars have proposed the idea that this Abu Bakr, he was implying a threat. He was implying a plot. And the plot is that now that Rasulullah has passed away, we will now take over. We will now take over the leadership. He has now gone. He is no more. Faqad mat. He has passed away. We will now take over. So this was an indirect threat, especially to Amir al-Mu'mineen. This was a threat to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Now his khilafah and his leadership, his wilayah, is under threat. That these people have now come and they will take over. And they will harass and attack the Ahlul Bayt. So this was the khutbah of Abu Bakr. Now, what's strange is that this Umar bin Khattab, a minute ago, he was causing a scene and he was shouting and he was crying, he was screaming, waving his sword around. And the Sunni brothers, they claim that the reason why he was waving his sword around and why he was causing a scene is because Hazrat Umar loved Rasulullah so much that he cannot bear the news that Rasulullah has passed away. He could not bear this news. This is why he caused a scene. But now after Rasulullah has passed away, Umar bin Khattab has come on the minbar, gave his speech. All of a sudden now, he's happy. There is a change in emotion. All of a sudden he puts his sword down, he stops shouting, he stops screaming, he stops causing a scene, he stops threatening those who claim Rasulullah has passed away. All of a sudden now, he's back to normal. He's back to normal now. Even within our society, when somebody dear to us, our family member, a friend, when they pass away, the first few days they would cry, they would weep, they would grieve, they would stay in their house. But slowly over time, after a few days, a few weeks, the grieving and the sadness slowly fades away. They slowly begin to forget about that family member who has passed away. They forget slowly, after a gradual amount of time, a few weeks, a few months, they forget. But this Umar bin Khattab, he changes all of a sudden. In an instant he changes. After Rasulullah gave this, after Abu Bakr gave his speech, Man kana ya'budu Muhammadan faqad mat, all of a sudden he's happy. He's looking around and he's smiling and he's looking at everybody. Yeah, I'm happy. No more scene, no more sword waving around. He's happy all of a sudden. Why is that? It's because in his mind, the reason why he did this was again to buy time. So Abu Bakr can come in and establish his position and his leadership, and that we are going to take over. And this is why Umar bin Khattab, he gets happy. And he stops his crying and his crocodile tears, his fake crying for Rasulullah. He stops this and he sits in the masjid. It is said that he sat next to the minbar. There was the minbar of Rasulullah, and the one leading after, or the right hand man, which in this case was Umar bin Khattab, they would sit next to the minbar. And it is said that he's sitting there like this. He's just looking around as nothing has happened. You have just caused a scene. You have just threatened people that you will kill them because they are saying Rasulullah has passed away. But now all of a sudden, you're fine. Your emotion has changed. And this is because of going back to the three main things that I spoke about in the first majlis. The reason why Imam al-Hussaini alayhi salam was killed was because of hostility and leadership. Umar bin Khattab, Abu Bakr, they had conjured a plan. Okay, now Rasulullah has passed away. We will take Ali ibn Abi Talib's leadership. We will abandon certain practices. We will start new practices. And this was in the minds of these leaders. And after Rasulullah passed away, he had stayed in his hujrah. He has stayed in his room. Then the event of Saqifa takes place, which inshallah tomorrow will be the topic. As-Saqifatu Bani Sa'ida, the election of Saqifa, and how the leader was chosen, and how Abu Bakr came into power. Although Abu Bakr had already established his leadership by saying, Man kana ya'budu Muhammadan faqad mat, which he is trying to imply that whoever loves Rasulullah, he is now dead, and we will take over this leadership. And he was then appointed in Saqifa. And because of Saqifa, because of the leadership elected in Saqifa, it started off with Abu Bakr, it started off with Umar, then it went to Umar bin Khattab, then it went to Uthman ibn Affan, then it went to Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan, and then it went to his son Yazid. This was the connection between each leader. Each leader connects to the other. Whereas if we see within our leaders, it starts with Rasulullah. It goes to Amir al-Mu'mineen. Then it goes to his son Imam al-Hassan. And then it goes to Imam al-Hussain, and from Imam al-Hussain, Imam al-Sajjad, Imam al-Baqir, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhim ajma'een. It goes to all of the Imams. But this was the core decision making of these two individuals, this Abu Bakr and this Umar. These two were those who had deviated the religion and caused the minds of those people around them to hate Ahlul Bayt and to have a grudge against Ahlul Bayt. So again, these events are recurring, and tonight we remember the second night of Muharram, and this is the night where Imam al-Hussain alayhi salam has now arrived in Karbala. He has now arrived in a land of Nainawa. He has arrived in the land where he will be killed. He has arrived in the land where his tents will be burnt. He has arrived in the land where his daughter will be slapped. He has arrived in the land where his blessed body and the body of his companions and family members will be trampled. As the Imam entered Nainawa, he entered Karbala, he took his companions and he said, this is where I will be killed. This is where my Abbas will be killed. This is where my Ali al-Akbar will be killed. This is where Abbas' arms will be severed. This is where Ali al-Akbar will receive a spear to the chest. This is where my body will be trampled. The Imam knew of all these events. And it is said that when the Imam arrived, the women, after hearing this news, they began to cry. They began to cry tears, wailing loudly, because of what was to come to the Imam and his companions and his family members. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He accepts the gathering of our majalis and in remembrance of Abu Abdullah. We ask Allah that He gives us the blessing to continuously come to the majlis and remembrance of Abu Abdullah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He hastens the reappearance of our Imam al-Sahib al-Dar. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وصل اللهم على محمد وآل محمد.